The night the fire came, it swallowed everything in its path. Houses cracked open like old matchboxes, roofs collapsed into sparks, and the air itself felt like it was burning. People screamed, water hoses hissed, and sirens wailed into the choking sky. For Clara, it was like watching the world she knew dissolve into smoke. She remembered clutching the photo album her mother had given her, the flames creeping closer, the heat searing her skin like an invisible hand. She thought it was the end until strong arms lifted her from the suffocating dark. Through the blur of smoke, she caught only fragments: a firefighter's face behind a soot-streaked mask, the urgent rasp of his breath, the way his grip was both firm and trembling. He carried her through the blaze, each step a promise against the inferno's greed. When she was laid safely on the curb, coughing but alive, she saw him for a moment in the flickering glow of firelight. Something about his eyes struck her like a bell rung deep in her chest. But before she could speak, he was gone again, swallowed by the smoke. Weeks passed. The fire left behind a skeleton of the town-charred beams like ribs of a broken body, ash crunching beneath every step. Clara walked those ruins daily, trying to stitch herself back together. She had lost her home, her job, her sense of safety. Yet in the quiet ruin, she also found a strange clarity. Sometimes the earth has to burn, her grandmother used to say, before new things can grow. Clara clung to that. She worked with neighbors, clearing rubble, planting seeds in scorched soil, painting murals on cracked walls. Every brushstroke, every hammer swing was a rebellion against despair. Slowly, color began to bloom again where only gray had been. Then one afternoon, as she carried supplies to the community center, she saw him. The firefighter. He was leaning against a truck, helmet tucked under his arm, sweat glistening on his brow. Without the mask, the recognition slammed into her like a wave. His jawline, his eyes, the curve of his smile, it was him. Ethan, the boy who had once shattered her heart like glass. Memories came flooding back: high school hallways, whispered promises beneath the bleachers, the way his hand had fit so perfectly in hers. And then, the day he left without a word, chasing dreams in another city, leaving her with silence where love had once bloomed. She had sworn never to forgive him. Yet here he was, the man who had saved her life. Their eyes met across the parking lot. For a heartbeat, neither moved. Then he walked toward her, each step stirring the dust between them. "Clara," he said softly, her name cracking in his throat. She wanted to turn away, to bury the storm rising inside her. But instead, she whispered, "It was you." He nodded, guilt flickering in his gaze. "I didn't expect you to recognize me. How could I not?" Her voice trembled. "You carried me out of the fire." Silence stretched between them, heavy as the ash still clinging to the air. "I'm sorry," he finally said, "for leaving. For everything." The apology was years too late, yet something in his voice made her chest ache. He looked older, wearier, as if life had carved lessons into his skin. Still, beneath it all, he was the boy she had once loved, standing before her like a ghost given flesh. Clara swallowed hard. "People don't just walk away and come back as if nothing happened." "I know," he murmured. "But I never stopped thinking of you. When I saw you in that house," his voice broke, "I thought I was too late. Saving you was the only thing that mattered." Tears stung her eyes. She wanted to hate him, to cling to the bitterness she had nursed for so long. But his words cracked something inside her, and the pieces of anger fell like charred wood collapsing after the fire. The days that followed blurred into a rhythm of rebuilding. Ethan was everywhere, hauling debris, fixing roofs, helping children paint murals with hands calloused by flame and loss. And though Clara tried to keep her distance, she found herself watching him when she thought no one else noticed. The way he bent to comfort an old woman who had lost her cat. The way he laughed, unguarded, when a boy sprayed him with a hose. It was maddening. How easily the embers of old love flared again. How the warmth of him seeped back into her heart. One evening, as the sun dipped low and painted the ruins gold, Clara stood staring at what had once been her home. Only the foundation remained, cracked and blackened. Ethan approached quietly, his shadow falling beside hers. "Looks different at sunset," he said. She didn't answer. The lump in her throat was too heavy. "I wanted to tell you back then," he continued, his voice low. "But I was a coward. I left because I didn't believe I deserved you. And maybe I still don't. But, Clara, I came back because I couldn't keep running from what mattered most." She turned to him, tears spilling freely now. "You broke me, Ethan. And then you saved me. How am I supposed to carry both of those truths at once?" He stepped closer, his hand hovering near hers, as if afraid she might vanish. Maybe that's what it means to rebuild. To hold the broken and the saved in the same hand, and still choose to keep living. His words settled over her like rain on scorched earth. She thought of the town, once reduced to ashes, now sprouting life again. She thought of her own heart, cracked but still beating. Clara looked at him, really looked, and saw not just the boy who had left, but the man who had returned, scarred, flawed, yet standing before her with a love raw enough to hurt. And for the first time since the fire, she let herself breathe deeply. She placed her hand in his. "Then let's rebuild, together." The night wrapped around them, soft and forgiving. The ruins stood silent, but beneath the ashes, something stirred. Not the fire that destroyed, but the fire that warms, the fire that heals. And as they stood there, holding on to each other like survivors clinging to the promise of dawn, Clara realized that love, like a town, could be rebuilt not as it once was, but stronger, tempered by flames, rooted in resilience. The fire had taken so much, but it had also given her this, a chance to rise again, to forgive, to love. And beneath the ashes she found not just ruin, but the fragile beginnings of something new.